There are things that we cannot put on paper exactly as they are because of their size. We would need to find another way of representing them. In other words, we would need to find a way of relating a real object or quantity with representations of figures or quantities.
This is interesting. I see what you mean. Like, for example, how do they put the whole world on a piece of paper and know they've done it correctly?
Good question, Amina. They do it by using what we call scale. Scale is where real measurements are represented by suitable smaller units on paper. Now, the scale we choose to use needs to be appropriate for the thing we are representing. In other words, we need to use a scale that will not only fit on a piece of paper, but give us the correct impression of the thing we are representing.
So, if we want to show our table as a graph, we first need to decide what scale we should use.
That's correct.
I think we'll need two scales, like this.
Good thinking, Opio. When we drew a bar graph, we usually have two scales. That is, vertical scale and horizontal scale. And both scales need to be appropriate for the data that we want to represent. Now, using our input table, let's look at how we will choose a suitable scale.
We would need to represent the number of turns on one axis and the months on the other axis.
We can put the number of turns in the vertical axis and the months on the horizontal axis. The number of turns is in hundreds and the highest number is 500. If we use 1 centimeter on the vertical axis to represent 10 turns, the highest value will then be 50 centimeters. That's too long. 50 centimeters won't fit on the paper.
Which means it's not an appropriate scale. For it to fit on the paper, it needs to have an appropriate scale. I suggest we use 1 centimeter to represent 100 tons. There we go. This scale works well. Now, we can represent the data as a bar graph.
That's right. You have chosen a suitable scale to represent data. Now you can go ahead and draw a bar graph to represent data.
We can also represent the input in a circle graph. I have an idea on how we can draw the circle graph.
I can remember that in a circle graph, we were using degrees. Hence, we'll need to convert each fraction into degrees. And this can be done by multiplying all the fractions by 360 degrees. I can now represent the information in a circle by measuring the angles using a protractor. Thus making a pie chart.
What can you notice about the pie chart?
The largest sector represents the amount with the highest input.
The pie chart is similar to the bar graph because in the bar graph, the highest input is represented by the tallest bar and the lowest input is represented by the shortest bar.
That's a very good observation, Opio. Here is today's task. Gather information about the number of adults and children in each of the households in your neighborhood. Represent this data as a bar graph and as a pie chart.